Hello again, this is Rich Troxler, aka Rich Trox. If you've been following my videos on reading the beach and my surf fishing series, you've probably noticed that they tend to be long, fast-paced, and dense, without much fish catching footage to lighten the mood. So I figured I'd flip the switch and try something a little different this time. While this is basically a fish catching video, I'll be doing a little talking over the top from time to time, just to give you some background and insight on what you're seeing, hence the subtitle, A Lesson in the 90-10 Rule. The 90-10 rule is based on an old saying that states 90% of the fish are caught in 10% of the water, and that 10% of the fishermen catch 90% of the fish. And I've never seen anything to make me believe anything different. Since moving down here a few years ago, I've had to practice a lot of what I preach on my videos as I learn my new areas and the local species that inhabit them. The short version is that there is a reason these fish were where they were and why I was catching them. So sit back and enjoy the action. Sweet! Most of my fishing equipment is designed for fishing in the surf, so when I bought my kayak 2 years ago, I needed some suitable fishing gear to go with it. And while I own a lot of high-end gear, I'm not opposed to using cheap off-the-shelf gear as long as it gets the job done. So I went to my local Walmart and found this Penn Squadron graphite fishing rod. It's 7 foot, fast action, rated for 12 to 20 pound mono and 15 to 40 pound braid, and lure weights from a 1/2 ounce to 1.5 ounce. It's got a lot of backbone to it, and it only cost about $50, so I bought 4 of them. I coupled these with Penn Pursuit 2 reels at a whopping $40 a pop, and strung them up with 40-pound Power Pro. I've owned a number of Penn SS and SSG series reels, which run between $150 and $200 a pop, and have had the cheap Chinese pop metal gears strip on these reels as soon as I leaned on them a bit. So I'm happy to say that I've beaten the crap out of these setups for 2 years now, and have not had a single problem yet. I guess you could call this an endorsement of sorts. Man, these guys are strong. Yes, I could. Yep, look at that. Circle hook working again, huh? Nope. Ain't gonna get the time. He is on there. Ah, you got gut hooked, didn't you? So we have a circle hook fail. Thought I felt the leader rubbing around on your teeth. Alright, I can't get that out. The one thing I'm not crazy about with the GoPro camera is the fisheye lens. It makes everything look curved, further away, and smaller than it actually is. Anyway, right about the time I hooked this fish, I saw a boat coming toward me. While he looks far away in the video, he was close enough to see me, which is why I dropped my rod tip into the water and pretended to be doing other stuff. I don't think he was fooled though, because he came in tight to me to get a closer look. While some might think that I'm being selfish by hiding my fish, I can assure you it's justified. I don't mind helping people learn to fish, but I don't want to burn my spots either. So I'm taking a big chance with this video. I'm hoping that the next time I show up here, I don't find 8 kayaks and 5 boats anchored up with everybody casting over each other's shoulder. Then again, if they don't fish under the right conditions, they won't be catching anyway. More on conditions and why these fish are here coming up in a bit. There we go. Put it down for a second to clean my glasses. And there she is. Wow. This has got a little weight to it, huh? There she is. Oh, look at this. It's a black drum. Hey, this puppy. Sweet. Oh, yeah. All right. Now that we're done dealing with the black drum, here we go. Back at it. This guy's swimming right at me. What a nice little run. Hey, these guys are tough. Oh yeah, that's a nice fish. Oh yeah. Oh, did I lose him? I lost him. Did I? Or is he just swimming toward me? No, I still got him. Woo! A lot of spirit for a small redfish. Dang. Well, he's not so small. The croakers seem to be enjoying that. Oh, that's not a croaker. Well, maybe it is. Nope. This guy's not going to come in nice. Great. As mentioned earlier, these fish are not here by accident. Fish don't do random. There are usually very good reasons for why fish show up when and where they do. So before I talk about the where and why, I'm going to take a minute and talk about the process I use to find these fish. Basically the same process I've been outlining in my surf fishing series videos. For many years, I lived and fished on Long Island. I was known as a bit of a bay hound, and Long Island has no shortage of bays. So when I moved here a few years back, the first thing I did was fire up my computer and check out the area. This bay became one of my projects, so the first thing I did was print out a bunch of aerial views of the bay and start reading everything I could on the fish that inhabited it. After getting an idea of what I was looking for, I made several trips out on the bay with nothing more than the maps, a pen, a fishing rod with a 3-ounce sinker attached to the end of the line, and a cast net. I paddled around and identified channels, flats, dock lines, sod banks, islands, whatever looked interesting. I'd drift along with the current, bouncing my sinker off the bottom, identifying depth, drops, holes, crunchy bottom, sand bottom, stuff like that. I looked at the shallow drainage ponds and where their openings were, where the flats emptied out, and just about any type of structure there was. I was particularly interested in transition points, especially those near deep water channels. During the lower stages of the tide, I walked the flats, tidal ponds, mini channels, and main channel edges, throwing my cast net as I went so that I could identify the predominant bait and the areas they like to hang in, or more importantly, where they got drained into. So after making my observations and recording the information on the maps, basically scribbling all over them front and back, I took it all home, looked it over, and started devising a strategy. A strategy based on fish, bait, structure, and conditions. The same strategy I present in my surf fishing series videos. Oh, you don't like the boat, do you? There you go, boy. Oh, yeah. Didn't even get a chance to cut up some bait. Oh, I had one on here the whole time, didn't even know it. I'm sorry, I got hit. I hope he's not dead hooked.
That's a pretty nice sized fish.
That's one.
We'll grab it.
Woohoo! He saw the boat. According to the first part of the 90-10 rule, 90% of the fish are found in 10% of the water. So why are these fish here? Well, as near as I can tell, there are several reasons, with the short version being location and conditions. The location I'm fishing has a very interesting physical makeup. Behind the bank that I'm fishing is a large salt pond that is fed by a few creeks on the backside and some cuts in the bank that I'm fishing along. The salt pond is very shallow, no more than 2 feet deep at high tide, and is a place that bait takes refuge in during the higher stages of the tide. The bank also has several attributes that make it attractive to predatory fish. It is a stretch of bottom averaging roughly 5 to 6 feet that runs parallel to the deeper water of the main channel. This is an important feature, as most fish that like shallow water like to have deeper water nearby in case ospreys and fish eagles show up for lunch. There is also a cut in the bank to the salt pond. This too is an important feature, as it is an entry and exit point for bait, with the emphasis in this case being an exit point. But the real kicker here is the aquaculture cages that have been placed in rows parallel to the shore to encourage the growth of oysters, mussels, and other aquatic life. These are prime vertical structures and bait fish magnets. They are not visible at this point in the video, but will be later as the tide drops. This is how the conditions of the day fit in. The tide is outgoing from about half out until just before slack low. Lunar stage is new moon, in this case the day after the eclipse. Wind direction and speed is wind from the south and moderate in strength. You can hear it in the video. Ambient light is bright and sunny, a non-factor for today's fishing. What happens is that as the tide drops, the predominant bait, that being finger mullet, starts getting moved out of the salt pond. Being that it's a new moon, meaning the highest and lowest tides, the pond nearly drains dry, and does so quickly, so the bait has no choice but to leave through the cut. The new moon also has the current ripping, which is always a disadvantage to small bait fish and an advantage to predatory fish. And lastly, the southerly wind, which is blowing onto the bank, tends to keep the bait on that side of the channel. The bait comes out of the cut, moves along the shore in the direction of the current, and tries to take shelter around the aquaculture cages. Mix well, and this is what you get.
This guy's got some muscle. that's a beast. Ouch. That wasn't graceful, was it? Oh boy, this guy don't want to come in. Come on, get in there. Gotcha. Boy, they're just starting to suck it in now. I hope he's not gut hooked. He is gut hooked. No. Good deal. Keep that mouth open. Thank you. Let's make a move. There you go. Oh yeah. He hasn't come up yet. He's gonna see the boat and he's gonna go, uh-oh. Alright, this is the second circle hook fail. And I hit him right away, too. Maybe that was the problem. Yeah, he's gut hooked. Wrapped around that pole. buddy. You're going to have to open up wide here. Oh, come on. You want to fight now? You had your chance. Come on, open up. Open up for me. Another circle hook fail. Oh, good. That's not croaker. That's a redfish right there.
At this point, the tide has gone down enough so that you can see the tops of some of the aquaculture cages near the shore. Those are the ones you can see. There are many more that you can't see, and I've lost dozens of rigs in them while learning where they are. Just another cost of doing business.
Oh, that ain't a crab. Come here and open wide.
Some of you may have noticed a cast net on the bow of my kayak. Part of any successful strategy is knowing what the predominant bait in the area is, and seeing that you have a good supply of the very freshest you can get. The cost of the cast net is well worth the money, and the time learning to throw one is time well spent.
Caught these things until my arms have fallen off.
As you probably guessed, I had a few choice words for the guys in that boat that just buzzed me, and as luck would have it, the battery on my camera died while landing the next fish, so my day was winding down. I stuck around and landed several more fish before the tide crapped out and the bite died, and I was even fortunate enough to have the wind at my back on the paddle in. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video, and more importantly, I hope you got something out of it that helps you on your surf fishing journey. And please, forgive me for the corny title of this video, I just couldn't help myself. Well, that's my view from the beach, so until next time, be well and catch 'em up.